Hi everyone, my name is Samuel Cohen. I'm the CEO and founder of Fairgen, and I'm here today with Andy Davidson, president at Big Village. We'll talk about our partnership and exploration around how to bring synthetic data in a very reliable way to market research and how to allow solving very hard problems and very useful problems for real customers. So let's get right through it. What we've explored with over the last 3 years is how to bring synthetic data in the hands of customers. And synthetic data is a very general thing, but what matters, in our opinion, always is what value we can bring. For example, in a T-Mobile use case that we've presented in the past, we were able to augment the number of DMAs that are readable in brand tracking studies, which is super valuable. In Google studies, we're able to refine the accuracy of brand lift measurements, which is also extremely useful. So this technology that we're going to talk about today is extremely reliable and has strict guidelines that allow to deploy safely for important brands and customers. Fairgen's technology consists of multiple products and modern tools. On one side, we have a product that allows quality detection. It's a last layer of defense before insights that removes all bad quality respondents. On the other hand, we have a boosting product, which is kind of our flagship products, which basically allow to generate niche data for deeper insights. So it allows to take a general macro study with a limited number of respondents and generate more data for the segments where we don't have enough data to give meaningful results. So that's a boosting product. And it's basically a type of synthetic generation that always starts from an already existing survey and basically generates more rows for the segments that don't have enough data. Then we have a product Impute, which follows the same kind of strategy, but for another use case, which is to reduce the number of questions asked per respondent and using models to impute, to fill the questions that weren't presented to each individual customer. And that allows to reduce basically the time spent answering questions by, on average, 50%. We also have a product around basically the idea of understanding how LLMs basically depicts brands and brand equity. And that's also another agentic way to solve an important problem for brands. An important point is the Boost and Impute products are meant to have the same statistical guarantees as general traditional quant research, where you only collect data in the real world. And what we mean by same guarantees is run statistical testing and you have calibrated confidence intervals. And so you can use this augmented data as a basically plug-in and plug-and-play solution to go deeper than you could with real data. Then we believe that the future of research is hybrid. Hybrid in the sense of merging real first-party collected data and generated data, the modeled data that starts from an existing file or not sometimes, and it allows to go deeper than we could alone. There's kind of two families today in terms of like the future of quant research and how things are evolving. On one side, you have basically starting from classic quant, so still collecting surveys and going deeper, basically by wrapping models on top of this collected data. And that's kind of what Fairgen currently does. And on the other side, you have more agentic versions of quant, where you emulate large language models to act as humans and answer questions as if they're humans. And that allows to get basically much faster insights. But in that case, you cannot directly compute the confidence intervals and all the statistical tests that get the same level of reliability. So there's a trade-off between basically fastness of a study and how deep you can go versus the quality and trust on each side. And we'll show you now an illustrative explanation of how all of this technology is productized.
Imagine this. You're analyzing survey data trying to extract meaningful insights, but key niche audiences are underrepresented, leaving your decisions hanging on uncertainty. What if you could change that? What if your data could achieve more? Meet Fairgen. Let's say you're a research agency running dozens of studies of different types for various clients. Every project has hidden potential, those moments when a client asks for deeper cuts or a segment just isn't big enough to analyze. Fairgen's AI is trained on your dataset, per study, per audience, boosting your sample base so you can get more insights. No external data, no large language models, just your real survey data taken further. So, how it works? Fairgen learns across each audience to strengthen the signal of underrepresented subgroups, whether it's Gen Z in a segmentation, early adopters in a tracker, or niche voters in an opinion poll. Any niche group can be boosted as long as it's part of a base large enough to ensure statistical confidence. Instead of rerunning field work or settling for weak insights, your teams can unlock your data's full potential and deliver robust, reliable analyses in just 15 minutes. Stretch your sample, multiply your impact. Fairgen.
We'll also have to think about the fact that all of these products that Fairgen has built are integrated in a platform, and where basically everything can be accessed online or via API. It's simple and easy to use, it's secure, and it's very simple in the sense that you upload your data file, and then you basically either generate data, impute data, check data, do everything, and then download your file. And all of this takes basically less than an hour, and for the big files, and faster for the smaller files. And these types of platforms are basically given to our partners, like a Big Village, to basically do the work for the brands, and basically allow to go way deeper in their projects. And we'll hear more now from Andy on basically how he puts this technology to use to help his customers.
Thanks, Sam. Great to be on with you. As Sam mentioned, I'm Andy Davidson. I'm the president of Big Village. Big Village is the research and analytics division of Bright Mountain, which is an end-to-end marketing services platform. For many years, we were known as the Opinion Research Corporation, and more recently have taken on the name Big Village. From the beginning, we've provided and still do provide custom research services to brands and agencies in a variety of industries. More recently, we have been moved into the audience insights and activation space. So with that as background, we essentially leverage Fairgen in two capacities. And really both of them are to achieve the same outcome, one that Sam, I think, articulated quite well a couple of minutes ago, and that is scale and nuance in an efficient, cost-effective, and timely manner. So I mentioned a moment ago that we, in addition to custom research, we provide audience insights and activation services to brands and agencies. Our audience platform, which is essentially an end-to-end platform that helps agencies and brands build plans and reach audiences without the data loss that they might experience with other solutions. That platform is built on about 50,000 deterministic records or survey participants per year. And so, as you can imagine, for the brand focused on a regional audience, or the brand focused on a low incidence segment of the population, they quickly run out of scale with 50,000, in some cases even 100,000. And so, what Fairgen allowed us to do was essentially scale that 50,000 to a much larger base of respondents that still had the same statistical properties, but at the same time allowed for the nuance that otherwise wouldn't be possible without their partnerships. Just a quick snapshot of our platform. The first wave of data collection was conducted this year, or this year's data collection was conducted in the spring. We're in the middle of the second wave of data collection, and as you can see, the baseline is 25,000 interviews. Eventually, that will become 50,000 interviews at the end of the year. What Fairgen is allowing us to do is essentially toggle to a synthetic view of this data, which immediately scales the number of interviews to well over 100,000. As you would expect, what that allows us to do is achieve that nuance I talked about earlier, right? 50,000 respondents. If we start looking at specific age groups, maybe within specific regions, for a specific target audience within a category, we're quickly down to very small sample sizes. And what Fairgen's methodology allows us to do is essentially overcome that limitation. And then, so that's sort of the first capacity in which we partner with Fairgen on the audience side of things. I also mentioned that we are, we are also a custom research organization, and so we have lots of different engagements, smaller and larger in scale, with lots of the leading enterprise brands. In this particular case, Fairgen's partnership allowed us to together help T-Mobile overcome the same challenges with brand tracking that we do together, and in essence achieves that same scale that I talked about earlier. Helps really to unlock insights, analysis, and strategic direction at a DMA level that would otherwise not be possible. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Sam.
Thanks a lot, Andy. I think it's very clear here that this is a very tangible use case for synthetic, where it allows to do things that we would never have been able to do in the current spectrum of budget and cost, and on the other side, time. So it just unlocks a possibility to go deeper. So take an project that's basically, Big Village runs, already for a long time, and just allow this project to basically go beyond what it's been able to do up till now. So it's a way for technology to re-unlock real value and then delivers that value to end customers. So yeah, thanks very much to everyone for listening, and very happy to take some questions.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and invite Andy and Fernando back on screen with me for Q&A. Before we dive in, just a reminder to our audience that if you have any questions, you can pop them in that Q&A box and we'll start working our way through them. But to kick off the Q&A portion, what base size is needed of real respondents to reliably augment sample size?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Fernando. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Fairgen, replacing Sam here today. So at Fairgen, we have some requirements. For our customers, the limitations we have in our platform is that we require a minimum of 200 in the general population, and we require your niche samples to be up to 20% penetration. And the idea here is that you have to understand the intuition. This type of technology requires a lot of neighboring segments, right? The models are taking learnings not only from your underrepresented group, but also from the neighboring segments. So the intuition is you need quite a lot of neighbors, and you need your segment of interest to be small. That's why we have these limitations. Currently, we're heavily benchmarked towards these limitations, and we know that we can guarantee, improvements improvements in the analysis of the segments as long as you are under these limitations.
Wonderful, thank you. How much do the boosted groups' responses end up differing from the small groups they are projected from? If deviations are small, is the main benefit more or less statistical confidence? If deviations are large, how are those types of leaps validated?
Do you want to take that from experience?
Sure. I think it depends on the situation. I wouldn't say that in any situation we've seen drastic differences, but in some instances we have seen meaningful differences. And I think for me, and certainly we've discussed this with the Fairgen team quite a bit, for me that's really the value in the methodology. I think, yes, it does introduce statistical confidence that otherwise wouldn't be there. But at the end of the day, what's really unique to me is also the possibility that, given the methodology, the nearest neighbor technology and methodology that Fernando was talking about, it also has the potential to introduce new insight, and as opposed to just sort of carry forward the insight that exists in that small group you're boosting. So, but that being said, like I said, I don't know that we, as of yet, have seen substantially larger differences. But I think there's a possibility at some point we could.
Yeah, amazing. And then if I may add to that, there's also a component of this question about how do we validate that this. And obviously the main validation with everything synthetic data, by the way, not only Fairgen's approach, is by what we call parallel testing, which is a very common framework in this industry that has seen the surge of online samples some decades ago. But basically, the main form of validation is to compare boosts made by AI with boosts made in the real world. We have a whole framework to do that. And there we can basically compare errors, right? You can compare, you can determine if the model can successfully take your insights closer to the reality, to the true sentiment of that group. And we've done that with Big Village with their own data. We have done publications with in general where we put our benchmarks. So I also see another question about, if Fairgen is by definition bringing the niche groups closer to the mean, to the general population mean, which is definitely happens, but not all the time, right? I think that is the beauty of the model. It understands way beyond that, right? It understands how the subsegments are correlated with other subsegments and other groups. And in some instances, it might bring you closer to the mean of the whole population. In other instances, it might bring you closer to the means of, other clusters within your segment. In general terms, you can measure how often and how closer you are to the true sentiment of the population across many segments, across many variables. And you do that via parallel testing, which I'm happy to talk further and available if you have further questions so we can discuss more in detail.
Wonderful. Thank you. Another question we have here is, if there's no LLMs being used, is this boosting using traditional statistical techniques?
Yeah, 100%. So this is closer to, this is statistical imputation, right? There are many more traditional machine learning models involved. Maybe some of you have done projects, very custom, high-end projects with brands that took weeks, and the most senior data scientist in your team, and it still wasn't that reliable or that trustworthy. It was very hard. So we found a way to make it on scale. So that is definitely mathematical. There's no context involved. You can encode all of your data, send it to us, decode it back once we send back, and we have the same results because we have no understanding of context. That's purely math, purely statistical techniques. And that is why this side of synthetic data belongs to Quant, where the other sides are leaning closer towards qual.
Great. Thank you so much. It looks like that's all the time that we have for today. But if you have any other questions, make sure that you reach out to our speakers or to the Fairgen team. For those of you joining us live, I did drop the link to Andy and Sam's LinkedIns in the chat, so you can connect with them there. But Fernando, Andy, thanks so much for being here for this session and for the Q&A. And to our attendees, thank you. And we'll see you over in the next session, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Our pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.